Mi gente, Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Can't believe it, it's here. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Homebuying 101 with Sebastian Cordoba, Mr. Clear to Close. Guys, this week I'm super excited because I have my good friend, Roberto Ciccarelli, AKA Bob from Ciccarelli Homes Real Estate. Guys, you cannot miss it. We're gonna be talking about some really cool topics, right? We're gonna be talking about, is right now a good time to buy? Also, should you use a real estate agent when you're selling your home? Guys, please don't miss it. Tune in. Let's talk some real estate. Like it, comment, subscribe it. All right, guys, so please, big round of applause. Make some noise for Roberto Ciccarelli, AKA Bob. Bob or Roberto, what do you prefer?
But Bob is fine. Not to be confused with, Bob from the furniture store, of course. But unless you can roll the R. If you can roll the R and say Roberto, then call me Roberto. That's my God-given name. Otherwise, Bob is perfectly fine. 35 years of being called Bob. I'm used to it.
Love it, Bob y Roberto. I think I could throw them both in there,
yes,
maybe.
The Portuguese community, Spanish community, they tend to roll the R's a lot better, so they generally will want to say Roberto.
Well, my friend, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
All right, appreciate it. I'm super excited to have you on here because I know you're committed to also serving and educating the community and just making sure that we're able to give as much resources to the community, right?
Exactly. I think it's very important. I have a saying that, kind of simple. It's when you're buying a home or you're selling a home, it's not a bicycle. It's a home. This is possibly your biggest investment in your life that you're either buying or selling. So it's good that you're fully informed. Yes. And I personally, my agency, Ciccarelli Homes Real Estate, we take pride in making sure that our clients are fully informed of every step of the way.
Love it. And before we get into these good topics, Bob, tell us a little bit about who Roberto is, where you came from,
Yes.
Who's Bob?
Well, my name is Roberto Victor Ciccarelli Cintron Rodriguez Medina, but you can call me Bob, as I said. I've been in real estate for about 35 years, ever since I got out of the United States Navy. And I sold about $250 million worth in homes. So I pride myself in that. But most of all, we have a lot of repeat clients, generational clients that work with us. We are licensed in Massachusetts and in New Hampshire, but generally we sell real estate more on the eastern shore of Massachusetts, north and south, down all the way up to the Cape, nice. And all the way up to southern New Hampshire.
Excellent.
And we have been for many years. I'm sure not many people have heard of Ciccarelli Homes Real Estate, but hopefully those of you that are watching right now will remember Ciccarelli Homes Real Estate and Bob Ciccarelli.
That's right, and I'm sure you wrote down all that long name that you've got, yep. So everybody's writing them down.
I just remember Roberto.
So, and again, so let's get right into it because I think, all this experience that you have translates into a lot of good information you want to share with us, right? So
sure.
You've seen all these different trends in the market, where it's been 07 or 08, right, where there was a big change in the market, or now, what we're living in now, right? But I guess the biggest question you're getting nowadays is, right now, is it a good time to buy, Bob? Can I buy? Is it a good time?
Is it a good time to buy? That's a question that I will bet has been asked of me thousands of times since I've been selling real estate. And first, I would say that owning real estate is, without a doubt, the best investment you can have. Proven time and time again, historically, to always stand the test of time. So regardless of the highs and the lows, as long as you're willing to ride out the lows when they come, believe me, when the lows come and you hang on to your property, if as long as you don't need to sell it, it'll recuperate any loss of value and then some. And that's a historic pattern. So as far as owning real estate, best investment you can have. But is it a good time to buy right now? Absolutely. It's always a good time to buy. To be honest with you, even though, and you can speak to this, the rates are a little bit higher than they were in the past.
Yes.
And let's be honest, people were spoiled, right?
Yeah, they got too used to the 3s and the 2s.
Do you think we'll ever see those again?
You know what? I would love to see them again, but the way that the market is right now, it'd be maybe quite some time until we see them again. But
so you think that there's
I don't think so. I'd like to give some hope.
You're more optimistic than. Okay, well, there you go. That's your area of expertise is financing, but I would venture to say, based on my 35 years, that it's highly likely that we will never see, 2s and 3s again, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So realistically, if we ended up in the 4s and 5s, which probably is where we'll end up at some point.
Later this year, hopefully, if things keep
Yeah,
going the way that they're
or
going.
within, some time frame, that would be fantastic. But what happens when you wait for those lower interest rates?
Oh, a lot of things.
The
Explain.
main thing that happens is that you're competing with more people, okay? So right now, there are a lot of buyers buying. I am super busy, knock on wood,
Yep.
and hope to remain busy. But particularly when the rates are lower, it is just crazy.
Yes.
And then if you are buying a home and you're in competition with many more buyers, well, what happens? You see a house that you like, now you have to way overbid to be able to compete for that home because there are so many more buyers.
Yep.
So as far as buying now and is it a good time? Absolutely. The main thing is this, and it's very simple, and I want the audience out there to listen to this. Buy within your means. That's it. Regardless of whether the interest rate is 2% or whether it's 10%, not that it is. It's about, I think, about 6.5 right now.
It varies, yep, depending on a lot of factors. But
Regardless of what the interest rate is, you buy within your means, what you can afford, okay? What you feel comfortable with paying, okay? And if you do that, then you own your home, right? You have the collateral, you have the property, you have a payment that you can manage, even if the rate is a little bit higher. And then when the rates go down,
you refinance.
we call you, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
what do we do?
And you
Do we even have to call you? You'll probably be ready to let us know
be
the rates
calling
go
you.
down, right? Exactly.
But that's the beautiful piece. I mean, the same thing I kind of describe, especially in home buying seminars. What I always teach is, for example, we put you financially in a position that you're comfortable with, right? And if right now this is the worst case and you're comfortable living under this worst case monthly payment, right? In the future, once rates go down, like you said, and you refinance, now you're in a better case, right? You have a more comfortable monthly payment with a more capital or more equity in the home.
Exactly, exactly. The other thing, too, that I think is a great motivation for you to want to buy is the rents. What are the average rents in, most developed cities here in Massachusetts? I think a two-bedroom is probably starting around $1,800, $2,000, up to, depending upon what you're renting, up to $2,400, $2,500. Yeah. So let's just do that simple math real quick. I'm not a great mathematician, but I know the basics. So let's say you take a $2,000 rent, right? You multiply it times 12. In 1 year, it's $24,000.
Yep.
And then in 5 years, okay, how much is that? It's $120,000. Think about that. You rented at $2,000 for 5 years, $120,000. Where did it go? Can you find it?
Are you going to get that back when you move out?
I can't find that $120,000. It's gone. Exactly. And I wish you had it. You wish you had it, right?
Yeah.
But if you own your own home, guess what? You're paying down a mortgage. You're paying towards your principal. You're building equity.
Exactly.
And you're really well into paying that house down quite a bit, which means that if you ever needed to take out an equity loan on that equity that you have,
Yep.
or when the time comes to refinance, you want to drop down that payment, you have that tangible
Yes.
property. You have that house that you can now refinance or you can take a loan against, et cetera.
Yep.
So that money that you paid in a mortgage, it's basically a great portion of that is coming back to you, where it won't in a rent. So between that, the fact that owning is always better than renting, and as far as, like I said, even having something to pass down to your children. You can't pass down an apartment. I mean, you may not have children, so I'll rephrase that. But let's say your dog, okay.
They got a social security number, no?
Let me tell you something. There are some people that treat their dogs better than humans. I'm all for it. I don't want Peter going after me. Anyway, but yes, whatever it is, even if you have a family or someone that you care for, that you said, you know what, I want to own something, and eventually, I'll pass this property down, this investment, to someone else. Again, you have something. You can't do that with an apartment. You're renting, you're paying money to somebody else, you're getting somebody else rich. So yes, it's always a great time to buy. Less competition now, right now also.
Okay.
Still a lot of buyers. There are a lot of buyers, not a lot of inventory, but better to buy now than when the rates go down. It's going to go crazy.
Yeah, it's supply supply and demand, right? Economics 101.
It's
It's very basic, what you're saying. And what I've seen is a lot of what's happened over the past year, maybe 2 years, a lot of buyers have actually been pushed out of the market because of the interest rates, right? So a lot of these debt to income ratios now are out of whack, and now people can't qualify and have to wait, right? So to your point is now when these rates come back down and now these buyers can qualify again, now you're competing against, a lot more buyers.
You're competing. I mean, just a few years ago when the rates were low, it was insane.
Yeah.
I had one situation where I had a buyer client offer on the property, and there were 32 offers.
Wow.
32 offers. Interestingly enough, my buyer did get that property.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, was there a strategic way you went about it, or what do you do in that circumstance?
It's really how you present the offer. I mean, unless you're competing against a cash offer, with my experience working with buyers for so many years, I have different strategies that I can apply. As long as the confidence level is there, we discuss the home. Obviously, it's a case-on-case basis, but we'll look at the home. We'll see what areas we can be flexible in to strengthen that offer, burden it with less contingencies. That way it'll be more palatable and acceptable to a seller. But these are all strategies that come in play once you've been in real estate for many years, which I have.
Amazing, amazing. And that's why I love working with real estate agents and professionals like yourself, Bob, because what we're living right now in this market is when you get a buyer, they really want to get into their home. I mean, this is, like you said, their biggest investment of their life. So you can't waste their time, putting them into a part-time realtor, somebody who's not going to dedicate and put their full attention to them. So
yeah, I've had buyers literally, tell me, hey, Bob, this is my house. I can't lose it. I want this house. Not in a threatening way, but in a threatening way. No.
In the friendly, threatening
Not
way.
in a friendly, threatening way. No, but you know what I mean? I know that they really want it. And I feel that burden.
Right.
And all I say is, you know what? If you trust me, you trust the relationship, I'm not going to guide you wrong. Let's discuss the pros, the cons. Let's see how we can strengthen this offer. And we do the best we can. But in most of the cases, I do put my clients in a position to be able to get what they want, which I think is, a buyer's agent's responsibility. I put on both hats as any agent. Sometimes I'm working with buyers.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm working with sellers. But in this case, in working with sellers, again, if you want it, my job is to get it.
I love it. And this is great. So, Bob, and before we jump into the sellers, because you did mention something about sellers, but before we get into talking about sellers and if it's a good idea to use a real estate agent or why you need to use a real estate agent or realtor, right? Do you want to leave us with any last piece of knowledge to buyers and just, kind of motivation or maybe say, hey, listen, it is a good time to buy or any last piece of advice, I guess?
Sure. Just don't get caught up in the naysayers because there are always going to be people that are negative Nancys that are going to be, oh, don't buy that, whatever. The reality is that if you can buy a home and you can afford a particular mortgage and you buy within your means, you definitely should buy a home and have an investment and have something that's yours. You'll really appreciate that you did if you do that. But a lot of times, like I said, you get caught up in everybody's opinions. There are a lot of different opinions out there. Oh, maybe it's not a good time to buy. Wait till the rates go down, whatever may be the case. No, you buy within your means. You go for it. Put away your money. Talk to a lender, like Sebastian, of course, who's extremely experienced.
Thank you.
And he'll let you know what you qualify for. And the key is not to put yourself in an area where you feel uncomfortable or you can't manage. You definitely don't want to live just for your house. You want to have a life.
You want to go out and have a burger.
You want to be able to at least go to McDonald's once in a while. Free plug for McDonald's, right? Or wherever you want to go. So you just don't want to live for a house payment. That's why you find out first, okay, the rates are a little bit high. What can I afford? You see if it matches up to the type of property you want. Hey, maybe you won't get your dream home, but you'd be surprised how many people buy their first home, they fix it up a little, they live in it for maybe 5 years, 10 years on average,
build that
depending
value.
upon your age. And then you sell that, you've got that equity, you took that equity, you bought your next home.
With 20% down.
And then all of a sudden now you're putting 20% down exactly because you built that equity, which you wouldn't have done when you were renting.
We're saving that.
See, so there's more than one way to skin a cat, but the key is to get yourself in the game.
Yes.
Buy a home.
Buy a home. Don't think twice. 2024 is your year, guys.
Buy a home. Do it.
Get in.
Especially if you're young. I work with a lot of young buyers. I work with all ages.
Yes.
No discrimination at all.
But I hear you. No, I hear you.
But especially, the young buyers, I like to see them invest when they're young, because they just have, this world of opportunity ahead of them.
And time flies by. So next thing you know, I mean, if you didn't buy 5 years ago, you say to yourself, I should have bought 5 years ago because it flies.
Listen, I don't know anybody that hasn't purchased a home years ago who I run into and say, oh, I should have purchased a house then, and that'll keep happening. It just keeps perpetuating itself because that's the same thing people will always say. Yeah, you buy when you can buy, you buy within your means, and that's it. And then you refinance. You know what? If you got to refinance 10 times, you refinance 10 times. The rates keep going down. Keep refinancing.
That's right.
It's not that much to refinance, right?
No, exactly. And you can include the cost into the refinance too, into the loan amount, which is beautiful. So at the end of the day, you're not bringing any money to the table. And if the numbers make sense, because you can't just refinance, without having there being a tangible benefit, right? So there has to be a tangible benefit.
Right.
But
There
yeah,
is a percentage.
yeah, but that's amazing. So Bob, I mean, I think another hot topic, and I know everybody here is excited and anxious to hear about. Tell us, why should a seller use a real estate agent?
Okay, well, you see, that's a really good question. Thank you, Sebastian.
You're welcome.
So let's talk statistically first. So I'm not going to bore you with too many statistics, but oftentimes sellers will say, oh, it's time to sell a home. Oh, I can do this myself. I'll sell the house myself. But here's the thing. Statistically, it's proven that in over 80% of the cases, home sellers will make more than 10 to 30% of what they would have sold the house for by themselves. So you're talking about an average of 10 to 30% more in their sale price, in their pocket, if they used a realtor, versus them selling it on their own for less money because they're trying to save a commission. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So let's say hypothetically, and again, commissions can vary. There's no set commission with any agency. But let's say hypothetically, okay, just to use a number. Seller A is selling their home with agents, whatever agency, and they're being charged, let's say, 5%, okay? But guess what? Now they're selling their home. They have a better chance of selling their home anywhere between 10 to 30% more than they would have if they tried to sell it on their own, because when they try to sell it on their own, guess what they don't have? Most people, unless they're attorneys or they're really extremely business savvy and they're really immersed in the market, they're probably not going to know how to negotiate their home. They're not going to know how to avoid getting the wrong buyer. Just because somebody goes to your house, hey, we love your house, we want to buy it, and they have a pre-approval. How do you know that pre-approval is good? Right?
Yeah, you got to do a lot of research.
How do you know that pre-approval is with a credible lender? How do you know that when an appraiser comes, he's going to appraise your property the right way? There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle when it comes to real estate, and a lot of potential pitfalls. So again, statistically, it's in the favor of the seller to sell with a realtor, especially an experienced realtor. But besides statistically, most people have a day-to-day. Most people are working. They don't have the time to be fielding calls, working with buyers, setting up appointments,
Vetting out
filling open
people.
houses, negotiating, weeding through the bucket kickers, because you get a lot of people, you sell your home, all of a sudden, I'm going to sell my home. Next thing you know, every neighbor on the block, oh, we want to buy a home, we want to buy your home, but they want to undercut you. And then you get all these cash buyers that come out, oh, we'll give you cash for your home. But guess what? 99% of cash buyers are not going to give you what your home is worth.
No.
On average, and again, it's a statistic, they'll give you anywhere between 20 to 40% less than what your home is really worth.
Okay.
So think about this. You're trying to save a few percentage points of a commission to an agent who will do so much more for you and get you more money to then sell your home for less than 10% of what you could have gained.
Doesn't make sense.
Makes no sense whatsoever, because you're throwing away tens of thousands of dollars. So always use a realtor. Now use the right realtor. That's the thing. Not all realtors are created equal, unfortunately. Just not all doctors are created equal. Not all car dealers are created equal. Not all insurance agents are created equal. Every profession has people who are at a higher level of efficiency than others. So I guess, and I'm not trying to toot myself or toot my own horn, but I would say just make sure you get an experienced agent. Research the agent that you're going to use or the agency. Don't just go by the name, because the fact is that you can pull a number out of a hat or Google local agency, whatever may be the case. And the fact is that the individual agent out of that agency that's going to represent you, that's the agent you're going to be working with. It's not so much the agency. It's really the agent, the individual agent that's representing you, that's working with you. That's the one you want to make sure that has the experience and the knowledge to be able to get you top dollar for your property if you're selling, or if they're working with you as a buyer's agent, get you the property that you want at the best price.
Amazing. Amazing. That's huge. That's huge, Roberto, because, you know, what you're saying is valuable. I mean, and literally, right? Because people are trying to save a little bit of money where they're losing a lot more money what they could be gaining.
Makes no sense.
You know, so that's huge because I think the biggest point you're saying is, yeah, definitely work with an experienced realtor, somebody who's been in the game for a while. Yes, the agency is pretty and it can bring some bright colors, right, or lights. But at the end of the day, it's the agent who you're going to be working with.
And
right?
it could be a young agent too. Don't get me wrong. There
Okay.
are agents that come into the field that are very dedicated and learn the business well, and are to be commended. And I know quite a few of them, and that's fine. But the main thing is interview the agent, get to know them, make sure that they really know their stuff. What is their strategy when it comes to selling your home? And if they're a young agent but they work in a team and there's more experienced agents, that'd be fantastic. But if it's an individual agent and has a significant amount of experience and a great resume, that's also good. Just make sure you just don't pull a number out of a hat and say, hey, you represent me, and you don't even know, you know, the credentials of that person. That's the key.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And I'm sure everybody, the notebooks are packed because that was good information you've been giving.
Roberto, Bob Ciccarelli. I'll definitely take care.
So, Bob, you know, before we let these beautiful people go, you know, what's one last piece of, I guess, knowledge or one last piece of advice you want to leave us with? And but more importantly, Bob, what's the best way that everybody can reach out to you?
Well, me personally, if you want to write down my phone number, it's 978-902-4220. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of spam calls. That's okay. I've put out that number out there for over 30 years, so I think...
They're loyal listeners. They're loyal listeners.
The spam callers are already tired of calling me anyway. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me directly, and you'll be working with myself directly or someone from my agency who is equally as competent. But as far as what would I the last thing I tell the audience is remember that real estate is about you owning something tangible, okay? The American dream, if we want to call it that, and America's a melting pot, Marlboro in particular. I live in Lowell, also a melting pot. You know, the fact is that our ancestors, you know, our family members, you know, have come here with a dream of owning something. If you have the opportunity to own something, own it. Own it, because you will appreciate that you did. Again, own, buy within your means. You can refinance down the line if you want to, or if you're going to sell, that's fine, because sometimes you got to relocate for you know, business purposes, maybe a new job, whatever may be the case. But owning real estate is the American dream. So if you can own real estate, definitely do it. Get yourself a good realtor, get yourself a great lender, and do it.
Love it, Bob. I appreciate it, my man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for coming in. I look forward to having you on again.
That sounds great.
All right.
Do it. Do a bottle of tequila next time.
Yes.
Just kidding. Just kidding. No.
That holy water. So, mi gente, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Please, I look forward to seeing you next week. Like it, comment, share it, subscribe it, and let's talk some real estate again.